Okay, looked like it became a part 2 anyways. So we're going back to the tri-wing screws. All right. So just remove the screws from the side. All right, there's 3 on this side. Again, you want to keep all the screws in order. You don't want to get them all mixed up. Okay. All right, you got those 3 out. Then you got 3 on the other side. You want to remove those as well. Okay. Alright, so now that we got those 6 out, you want to remove the screws for the home button. So first what you want to do, excuse me, is hold underneath the home button itself. So you put your finger under there and press on it, and you want to remove that screw first, okay? Alright, so you always want to remove the home button screw first. Then you can go ahead and remove the other screws next to it. Okay. Alright, so these screws are somewhat of a pain to remove. Okay. Now that you got all 4 screws out, you want to remove the metal plate. Okay. And then just like the other models, let's see if I can show this. But the connector, it's held on this free moving thing. So what you want to do is you want to hold the bottom part down, and then you want to pull up the other one. So it's hard to show this, but basically I'm using one thumb to hold down the connector, and then I'm pulling up with my other thumb, okay? And that lets you separate the connectors like that. So here you can see, oops, it connects like that, okay? All right, so this is basically the same as like the iPhone 7, iPhone 8. And then this one, you want to lift the metal plate up. Let me zoom back out. I believe there's going to be an adhesive down here, so it's going to be difficult to separate this metal plate actually. So you want to lift the metal plate up. Be careful with the other cable. Okay. Alright, so the metal plate is attached to this, so you might have to use some heat to make it easier. But since this is already dead, you probably don't have to worry about it since the new screen comes with that cable. So if you want, you can just pull on it, but I'm going to use some heat to make it easier, and I'm going to remove the fingerprint sensor first, okay? So I have a small portable heater that I'm using. I'm going to heat this, and you heat it until the glass is hot to the touch. You want to heat the glass side, okay? And then when you keep your hand on the glass, if it's hot enough that you can't keep your hand there, then that's how you know it's ready. Okay, we're getting there. So I'm gonna grab a needle. I use this needle that I bent. I don't know if you can see the bend in it, but there you go. Okay, so we're gonna set this aside now. So now the glass is pretty hot. You're gonna have to hold this part of the fingerprint connector out of the way. This is part of the other screen, so you don't have to worry if you accidentally damage that. Okay, then I take the needle and get underneath the connector, and then I use the bent part, like the rounded edge, not the pointy part, to kind of push underneath to get the adhesive up. Alright, so just like that, and then I slide the needle across. I don't know if it's clear enough for you to see, but alright, so now we got the connector out, and then you can push the home button through, okay? So the home button actually goes through the other side, just like that. Okay, and it comes out just like this, so we'll set that aside. Be very careful. If you damage the home button, you can't replace it. The fingerprint sensor will never work again. They do have replacement buttons that will work, but it's not as responsive. It'll kind of lag a little bit. Okay, let's see if this side, okay. So this side's harder, it can't heat through the glass, so I'm gonna heat it on this side now. Okay, so I'm gonna heat this, and then I'm gonna peel away the adhesive from that metal plate. Alright, hopefully that's warm enough. Alright, let's see if we can peel it away. So hold down this cable, and then you can pull up the metal plate. Okay, it's likely gonna not come out easily. The adhesive that holds it is pretty strong, okay? So I'm just holding down the cable and slowly peeling up this metal plate. There we go. So there we go. And usually this, I don't really like this adhesive. It doesn't do much, so what I do is I kind of just dirty up the adhesive a little so it's not as sticky, because it makes it a lot harder to install the replacement cable if it's really sticky. Okay, so we'll set that aside. And now we have to remove the sensors up here. So again, we're gonna have to heat that as well. You can do this without the heat, but it's a lot riskier because you have to kind of use a lot more force to pry it. Okay, so we're just letting it heat up. Hopefully my phone won't overheat again. It overheated earlier because it had too many apps open, and I just left it on. That's why it ended up I have to make a two-parter, but okay. Should be hot enough. Alright, so I always like to start with, I don't know if I can even show this. Okay, I always like to start with the speaker little gold pins here. So I don't know if you'll be able to see what I'm doing, but I'm getting the needle hooked underneath, and then I'm lifting up those, okay, golden pins, just like that. Okay, and I try and use the rounded side of the needle. I don't like to use the pointed part because you can damage it. Okay. Alright, so got that. Then we move to this side. Oops, sorry. And then you want to lift underneath here. I don't even know if you can see what I'm doing. But you want to lift up all these pieces here. Let's make sure. Okay. And then we got to pop out these sensors at the top here. So just get the thing in and then pull them up. Okay, you want to be careful. This is actually difficult to show on camera, but I'm going to do what I can. Alright, I don't know if you can even see it. Oops, it's hard to make sure I'm keeping it in frame. But you got to pull up the little sensors. This part is kind of risky. You want to be very careful. Okay. Just like that. Make sure that you're pulling up underneath the sensor. You don't want to yank from the top. Okay. Alright. I might have to do this. I might end up doing this out of view because it's hard to do it at this weird angle. Okay. We'll see. It's coming out. Okay, there we go. So you want to slowly go around the sensor. Don't just lift all from one side. Okay. Because if you do, you can rip the sensor off the connector. But this can be a little tricky. There is also some adhesive on it, so sometimes it might be held in with adhesive. You might have to heat the phone some more. Oops, sorry. Yeah, this side, the adhesive is kind of still holding on to it, so it's stuck. There we go. Oops, sorry. Okay, so we got all of that. Then you want to slide the needle between these two layers and peel up the microphone. I'm gonna have to heat it some more because it cooled down. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to heat it up some more. Okay. So for this, you can use like a hair dryer or something. You don't have to use a little heater like what I'm using. Some people use like a little hot plate that just gets like really warm but doesn't burn it. So yeah. Okay, so to me this is the hardest part, removing these sensors. Okay, it's pretty hot now. Set that aside. Alright, so let's see here. So the hard part is just getting between the layers and then peeling it up. Okay, just like this. It might be easier if you lift out the whole, I don't know if you can see, but the whole, what do you call, the ear speaker assembly. You can actually pull that whole thing out and that would actually make it a little bit easier. But you have to separate that later anyways, so I'm gonna just peel off this by itself. Okay, so I'm separating the adhesive from the microphone. Oops, sorry. And then we're just peeling up this whole microphone assembly. There we go. Alright, so that's how you remove the sensor. Sorry it kept going out of view. It's hard to keep that in frame. But here you go. If you have, oops, sorry. So if you want, if this adhesive is coming out, you can replace it or just kind of put it back in place. The speaker will sit on top of it, so it will hold itself in place. So it's not that important that it's all holding on really tight, but yeah. All right, and I'm gonna see if I can peel off this adhesive for the microphone. Okay, because it does have its own adhesive on the replacement piece. This is kind of a delicate process, so usually people just leave this adhesive thing on there. But let me see if I can take it off. It's hard to keep this in view because it's somewhat far away from my body. Okay. I might end up just opening the adhesive and leaving it there. As long as the little hole is uncovered. Let me see if I can peel it off though. Yeah, it's not gonna come off. This adhesive is really strong. So let me show you what I mean. I don't know if you can see, oops, where's it? There. If you can see that, there's a little hole there. That's the microphone hole. So as long as you make sure that's not covered, then you should be okay. All right, so now we will take the replacement screen. I'll try a little bit more to peel off that adhesive, but okay, it is coming off. It's just a little bit of pain. With this, you want, with this, you want to be very careful not to fold or crease the cables because they can be damaged easily. All right, so I peeled off that adhesive. So here you can see, or I don't know if you can't, there you go. You can see the little hole right there. That's for the microphone. Okay, so what we're gonna do is let me zoom back out so you can actually see. Actually, I'll just move this over more. Okay, so here we want to remove this blue thing that protects the adhesives. Okay, then we want to line this up. The best way to line this up is this gold contact bar has 2 little holes in it, if you can see on the sides, and that's what you use to line it up. So line it up there, okay, into those 2 holes, and then you can push the rest down. All right, make sure not to touch the camera lens. All right, and then we got to get these sensors all back in place. So this will be a little difficult. Let me see. It's actually missing the plastic sensor block thing. So the replacement screen is missing these, so I'm going to try and transfer those over. Okay, so let's see if I can use the needle to pry those out. Okay. It might end up just snapping, but let's see. So I like to transfer over these plastic if it's missing because it keeps the sensors in the proper alignment. Okay, so my customer brought this screen to me, so I didn't actually buy the screen this time. Usually they will come with these plastic sensor mounting brackets. I don't know if you can even see it. It's very difficult to see, but yeah, usually they will come with those built in. So I don't know why this one it didn't come with it. The glass is all cracked over the sensor, so it's actually pretty difficult to remove these plastic pieces. It might end up bringing broken glass with it, so if that happens, you have to be careful and make sure to get those broken pieces off. Okay, so we got that out. There's a little bit of broken glass stuck to it. Okay. All right, so now we got those plastic pieces out. So this screen is done. We got all the pieces we need from it. Okay, so the sensor, we're gonna put this in, and then we need to put the other piece. Sorry, it's really difficult to keep this in frame while I'm doing what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. And then we need to put the camera thing back in as well. Just like that. Okay, now we got to align all the sensors. Okay. Make sure the sensors all go into their correct slots. Alright, so we have to actually go in the order that it came, but I'm going backwards order. That's going to make this more difficult. But first what you want to do is put back the home button. Excuse me. Alright, we shouldn't need the needle anymore, so we're going to put the home button back in first. Let me zoom out. Okay, so for the home button, you insert the connector through the front like this. Make sure that you hold the connector that's already part of the screen out of the way. Okay, this is a little bit tricky to do. You want to get it lined up properly and rotated the right way. Okay, just like this. And then make sure to line up the little raised bump here. Okay. Once you get that lined up, you can push down on top to get the adhesive to hold in place. Right? Then it helps to rotate this. A lot of times you'll have to push this part of the connector in this way if it doesn't latch on properly with the connector. Okay? So let's put the connector in. I'm pushing that bottom one with my thumb. Right? It seems like it latched, but I didn't feel it click, so I'm going to open it. Okay. Alright, make sure it lines up, push it down. Alright, I guess this one doesn't have that satisfying click feeling. Normally it should. Okay, so now, of course, the metal plate goes on top. Again, like I was telling you, the adhesive kind of makes this a pain because then you can't move the cables around. But when you do it, what you want to do is start with this slightly lower, and then you slowly pull it up, and the adhesive will grab on the cable slightly to pull it flat the way it should be. Okay, so just like this, and then pull it forward. Okay, make sure that the webcam cables and stuff are on top. All right, and make sure you're not smashing all these other cables and damaging them. Here we go. And now we need to put back the fingerprint sensor thing. What do you call this? The fingerprint sensor cover bracket. Okay, make sure that you're using the right screwdriver. So we need to switch back to the tri-wing. Okay. And just like before, you want to put the screws on the side first and then do the fingerprint sensor screw last, because this time we're doing it in reverse. Okay, so get the screw, line it up. It's difficult to tell. Let's see. Oops, I switched to the wrong one. Just wondering why. Okay, make sure you're using the tri-wing screwdriver. Okay, at first I'll put the screw in loose, not completely tightened. Right, then we'll go to the outside screw. Alright, and after we get those 3 screws in, minus the fingerprint sensor, you can tighten them down. Okay. Alright, and then we'll get the one for the fingerprint sensor. Again, you want to put pressure from the bottom to make sure that it stays in place. And then tighten it, sorry. So you want to push from the bottom because you don't want to push through and then end up damaging the fingerprint sensor. Okay, so we got the fingerprint sensor in here now. Sorry, I keep taking it out of view. I keep not really paying close attention to what I'm looking at. Alright, so you got these 2 cables here. Okay, so now for the sensors up top, make sure that they're aligned again. Alright. Sorry, this is hard to film with like zooming and everything. Alright, so next thing you want is keep the camera sensor up so you can put the speaker in place. Make sure you have the little springs in the right spot facing down. Alright, and then line it up and push that in place. Make sure you got it in properly. Alright, and then put the camera sensor into the little slot as well. Okay, there we go. Alright, once you got all of that, you can put the camera sensor cover back on top. Okay, so we want to switch back to the cross. Alright, so I'm just going to put a few of these screws in to keep it in place and put them loosely. Okay, so we'll start with the ones for the bracket here. Okay, just like that. Grab the other one. Okay, go. And once you got all those lined up, then you can tighten them down. This last screw right here that I put, I'll leave that one loose so that way I can adjust the metal bracket to put in the rest of the tri-wing screws first. Okay, so keep that in mind. Usually leave that one loose for now, but remember to tighten it before you put everything back together. Okay, so I'm going to tighten these down now that they're aligned. Okay. Get the last other speaker screw. Okay. Alright, so now we got all the speaker screws except for the one that's going into the metal bracket tightened properly. Okay, switch back to the tri-wing and we'll start putting back the metal plate screws. Okay, so for this you want to make sure that you're holding the metal plate down onto the screen. You don't want to pinch super hard, but you just want to hold it hard enough that you make sure that it's staying in place. Okay, and then tighten that up. Alright, next one. Alright, again, make sure you're holding the metal plate down. The cables are slightly in the way, so this one's kind of a little weird. Okay, tighten that up. I don't know, hopefully I'm getting everything in view. I mean, you get the point, we're just putting the screws back in. Okay, same thing, make sure that you're holding it down. Tighten up that screw. Okay, go to the other side. This model kind of takes a long time. My customer might be wondering what's taking so long. Alright, tighten that up. Make sure it's nice and tight. Okay, last one for this bracket, and then we'll tighten up all the screws. Alright, there we go. Can make sure that all these screws are tightened. Okay, and then the last one, switch back to the cross and tighten this one up here that we left loose. Alright, so now we gotta reattach the screen and make sure everything's working. I think their battery was dead when they did it, so let's see if I'm gonna have to, excuse me, Let's see if I'm gonna have to charge it to make sure it's working. So usually first connector I want to put is this one because it's at a weird twist. So I put this in first because it's easier to hold. My head might get in the way, but you get the idea. These can be pretty tricky to put back. It helps to have the phone slightly sideways to yourself. Okay. Let's see here. I can get that in right. There we go. Once it's lined up, push it in. You should feel and hear the click. Okay. Now we got to put in the last two connectors. Right, you want to be careful because we did put that adhesive down. So if you put the screen in, it's going to be difficult to take it back out. All right. All right, line it all up. Customer's calling, probably asking what's going on. I don't want to answer it now. I'll answer it when I'm done. Okay, make sure you push back all the connectors all the way, and then push the battery connector down. There we go. All right, now let's make sure it turns on. I might have to plug it in. Oh no, it's turning on. Okay, so it looks like it's good. I'm gonna have to put back the metal plates and we should be good to go. All right, so you see the Apple logo. You want to test the speaker, make a phone call, test the front facing camera, and then also test if you cover the glass or if you cover the sensor up top, it should go into the, like the screen should turn off while you're making a call. So it looks like this is all working. Okay. All right, so all that's left is put the metal brackets back in. Again, you want to make sure to hold the screen sideways like this. Okay, so I'm going to put those metal brackets back in. So it helps to put the screws loosely. Usually I'll put one screw loosely first. Okay, like this. And then that way I can use that as a rotating hinge to align the other screws. Okay, so we'll take the other screw up here and tighten that one in as well. All right, once you got two opposite, then you should be able to screw it down. Okay, two more screws. All right, tighten that up. Grab this one, tighten that up as well. All right, and then we got the last bracket up here. Again, take one screw. Put that one in. All right, again, you want to leave it loose slightly so that way you can use that as a rotating point to make sure you can get in the second screw. There we go. Now that you got those two, tighten them down and then get the last screw and tighten that in place. All right, so now we got all the screws back in. You want to put it at an angle, so the bottom you want to lift up and then slide the top in because it has those hooks as I mentioned earlier. Okay, so you want to slide that in. All right, and then once you get that in, you want to go ahead and push the bottom half down first and then go up the sides. All right, just like that. There we go. Make sure it turns on, and there you go. Now put the last screw in place, which is the pentalobes, and we're good to go. All right, so put the last two screws. Okay. So there we go. Hopefully this video helped you. If it did, please like and subscribe so that others can find this video. And thank you for watching. I'll hope to see you in the next one. Bye.